As homeschoolers, we often find ourselves surrounded by a huge amount of stuff. Books, art supplies, educational resources, science kits, and everything in between. While these items can enrich our children's learning, they can also lead to clutter, and let's be honest, clutter leads to stress. Today I want to talk about minimalism, tidying, and managing the possessions in our homes, especially as homeschool parents. We'll also discuss the KonMari Method, made famous by the best-selling international Japanese author Marie Kondo, and how this can be adapted for Muslims by asking not just, does this spark joy, but also, does this bring me closer to Allah? Let's take a fresh perspective on our homes and our possessions so that we can start this year with a sense of renewal and peace. As homeschoolers, we accumulate a lot of stuff, especially now since the holiday period. Perhaps we're not celebrating Christmas, but you may well have accumulated some new possessions. From curriculum materials to art supplies, it's easy to lose track of what we actually need versus what's just taking up space. This is why keeping tabs on our possessions is so important. A cluttered environment leads to a cluttered mind, and we all know the stress that mess can bring. Now, minimalism doesn't mean having nothing, it just means being intentional about what we do have. And let's be honest with ourselves, even Marie Kondo has admitted that the tidy standards that she had for herself are completely unsustainable when you have children. The standards that she wrote about in her book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying, and how she coached her clients before she had kids, are pretty unrealistic to maintain when you have children in the house. In homeschooling, intentionality means choosing quality over quantity. It means rejecting the FOMO of, oh, well, there's this curriculum, there's that curriculum, I have to have everything, because you'll never be able to use all of these source materials. Instead of buying every shiny new toy or curriculum that we come across, we should be intentional by choosing high quality resources that have multiple purposes or can be used over many years, even with multiple children. A lot of what we need is also available digitally these days, so that can be a great way to save both space and money. Less really can be more. A well-organized, curated collection of resources often serves our children better than an overwhelming abundance of options. And it brings us as parents a sense of peace. As Muslims, we're encouraged to avoid extravagance and waste and to try to live simply where we can. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, in approximation of his words, that the first cloth is for oneself, the second cloth is for one's guest, and the third cloth is for Satan. This teaches us that simplicity and moderation are virtues, and excess and hoarding are vices. Islam has an emphasis on zuhud, on abstinence, and asceticism. Not in the sense of living like monks with no possessions, but being mindful of the spiritual impact of overconsumption. So we should ask ourselves, are these items in my home really helping me in my ultimate purpose of getting closer to Allah? Or are they a distraction and a hindrance? Overconsumption also has a huge environmental impact. As stewards of the earth, as khulafa, we have a responsibility to minimize waste and to reduce our footprint. By decluttering and being intentional about what we bring into our homes, we can be taking small steps towards protecting the environment. Now, the novelty of New Year's resolutions is probably worn off by now, but perhaps for some of you, the resolution that you had made was to get on top of the house, to get on top of the clutter, to try to simplify your life. But instead of focusing on trends, let's think about doing this intentionally. Decluttering with intention can help us reset our homes and ground us for the homeschooling year. As Marie Kondo proposes in her decluttering method, we can go and we can assess all the items we own and ask ourselves, when we are holding this item, does this spark joy? Is this item really useful or beautiful, and does it enrich my life? Or is it a drain and just taking up space? To then take this further, we can adapt this with an Islamic stance. That is, to hold the item in your hand and to ask yourself, is this bringing me closer to Allah? Now, getting back to our homeschooling, what does this look like? First, take stock of your homeschool materials. If you've been homeschooling for a while, perhaps there are some materials that you've been holding on to for many years, but you just never use. Consider donating them to another family. Review which items have been working and which haven't been working. It is also okay to acquire certain items which you know that inshallah you'll need at some point. Perhaps your children are just not the right age yet and you're still holding on to those. Don't beat yourself up about trying to minimize everything, but what we're trying to get to here is a sustainable and manageable level of possessions in your home. Once you've taken stock of your possessions, we need to create a system that works for your family, a place for everything and everything in its place. Store frequently used items in accessible places and keep less used resources out of sight to maintain a clean and calm environment. Remember, this is not about perfection. It's about creating a home that supports your family's learning and spiritual growth. By keeping our possessions in check and our spaces organized, we're not just creating a more peaceful home. We're also cultivating an environment that fosters mindfulness and gratitude. So as you go about your decluttering journey, ask yourself, does this bring me closer to Allah? And let that guide your decision making. I'd love to hear how you manage your possessions in your homeschool. Share your tips in the comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos on homeschool and intentional living. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.